Welcome to the Inside College Soccer Podcast, brought to you by Sports Recruiting USA, the college soccer recruiting experts. Now, here's your host, Chris Cousins.
Hi everyone, Chris Cousins here, the founder of Sports Recruiting USA. Thanks for joining us once again for another episode of Inside College Soccer Podcast. This episode, number 12, is another good one. We've got a player called Charlie Machell. James Dawes, my colleague, interviews him. So a little bit about him. Basically, he's a former college player from England. So he started off in England, went to America, played for Wingate, ETSU, and now he's actually playing professionally in the Singapore Premier League, which you don't hear about every day, really. So it's a great little story. He's been around and he's got some stories to tell and advice and stuff like that. So it's a good podcast for people to listen to. Obviously, situation's weird at the minute, so I hope everyone is really, really well and families are well and stuff like that. So we're sending our thoughts out to everyone. It looks like it's getting a little bit better every day and going back to normal, so that's always good. If you've got time, obviously give us a follow on social media. Just search for Sports Recruiting USA or SRUSA. That's always good. Got any comments about the podcast, which we get a lot? Just give us a shout. It's good to hear back from people. So yeah, that's it. So obviously, if you've got time as well, you can always leave us a review. Leave us on the podcast, on Apple Podcasts and stuff like that. You can leave 5-star. That's always appreciated. So that's it for now. That's enough of me talking. So here's James Dawes interviewing Charlie Machell, and this is the Inside College Soccer Podcast. Enjoy.
So hi guys, James Dawes here from SRUSA. We've got another fantastic podcast for you today. I'm joined by Charlie Machell. Now Charlie is a Wingate in Eastern Tennessee State University alumni. He spent 4 very successful years out in the States before he transitioned into the professional game. And since then, he's gone on a bit of journey, really, all around the world. He's played in, Denmark and then over to the Faroe Islands and now playing over in Asia. Had a brief spell in Cambodia and now in Singapore. So really excited today. I know Charlie's going to bring a fantastic insight into the options that players have got that they might not consider at this point. And really excited to hear about his story and how he ended up in the States. So without further ado, Charlie, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. All the better for speaking to you.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. So, start off, Charlie, I'll sort of throw it over to you. If you could give us sort of a brief background on yourself. I know you're originally from Newcastle, England, so if you just want to give us a background on where you grew up playing and sort of a bit about your journey as a whole, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, so I was at a young age, playing at in Newcastle. I was playing local football and went in the academy for a little bit when I was much younger. They released me when I was 9 years old, I think, and it was one of those it's a bit of a dream crusher at that age. You think you're doomed and that's not going to go the way you wanted it to go. But then I ended up going back, ended up playing with the development squad. And at 16, decided to go to Monk's Eaton Football Academy, which was kind of a specialist for sending players over to America. They've had a good reputation for doing it. They're really good coaches who are coaches now at South Shields, back in the north of England, which has also been a really successful club. But yeah, I had Graham Fenton, Lee Picton, 2 great coaches there, and so played there for two years. Was close to signing with Darlington when I was 16 to maybe play as a pro there, but club went into administration, so that kind of went down the pan when that happened. So it was kind of a good thing that I'd end up going to Monk's Eaton, to do my studies and get the chance to go over to America. So my first year at Monk's Eaton, the American coaches came over and had a look at some players, and they ended up taking 4 boys from our team, who were the second years there, over to Wingate. And from an early age, I'd always considered going over to America. I wanted to. My stepbrother had gone over to New York to play, and he was 4 or 5 years older than I am. So seeing what he was doing was really, really interesting for me. So when I got the opportunity at 18 to go over to Wingate, to North Carolina, with three of my friends and teammates who I'd played with, and also 4 players that I'd already played with the year before, it was a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
So spent three really good years there at Wingate, and then moved to East Tennessee State for my senior year.
Brilliant. And yeah, so it's sort of a natural progression. Did you go to Monk's Seton then with the idea that you were going to go to America, or was it a case to see what happens in those 2 years, and then if America comes, then it happens?
It was definitely, yeah. I remember the first meeting with the guys at Monk's Seton. I'd said, my main aim is to go to America, and they kind of said, well, this is the right place to be, and they were going to help me any way they could to kind of get that sorted for me. So, like I said, we had a really successful team, which helped. You know, it's definitely not easy to get that platform that with coaches and connections. So I was really lucky that they had the connections that they did at the time. And the coach came over, like I said, and we played really well that season, got the national final, and they ended up taking me. So it was really good, yeah.
Yeah, and was it obviously Wingate on the table, very good D2 program. You know, they've gone on to win national titles since in recent years and things. But was it an easy decision for you, or was there still a bit of you that thought, you know, maybe I stay in England and try my chance out here, or what was it about the US route that was so appealing to you?
I think, like I said, with my stepbrother going over, he'd been at Hartlepool as signed as a scholar, and I used to go and watch him all the time. And I kind of saw the route that he'd taken, and it was one of those that I saw how much he enjoyed it, and I'd seen pictures and the facilities and stuff, and the way the crowds he was playing in front of, and compared to what he talked to me about playing at Hartlepool and then playing there, it was like, this could be better. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I could try and stick around and maybe play in the lower leagues and try and earn a little bit of money doing it that way. But I thought chance to get a little bit more of an education, you know, I thought really important to try and get that degree, so that if football wasn't going to work out, then I had something to fall back on.
And was your stepbrother playing college at this time, or was he playing like professionally or anything?
No, he'd just finished in the year before I went. He'd just finished over in America, so he didn't end up playing after that. He got into he did really well with his studies and got into a job over there in America. So it was a little bit like, oh, such a good player going over and maybe not making it after that, but it was an opportunity that he'd said there's definitely possibilities to do it, and to be able to go out and, you know, play with good foreign players, good facilities, train like a professional, and get looked after like a professional whilst being able to live in America. You know, North Carolina is a beautiful place. The sun was shining when we got there, 30, 35 degrees, I think it was. So yeah, you can imagine eight Geordies and 35 degrees altogether. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I can imagine it obviously made it a lot easier with going over with lads that you were playing with already in England, so that made the transition easy. But in terms of, you know, guys from the UK that do go over to America, what do you think is the right attitude to go over there, and what expectations should they have of themselves and maybe of the experience as a whole?
I think people will be really surprised, to be honest. You know, my mentality going over, which was a bad mentality to have, was that we were going to be better than players over there. Just stupidity, really. You think because you played in England that you're going over and it's going to be easy. You know, Americans, they don't even like football. They call it soccer. Do you know what I mean? It was literally one of them. So we went over with that kind of mentality that we were better than people, and it was a sharp wake-up call. I remember we played, first day we got there, we played 5-a-side against 5 Brazilians, and we got absolutely slaughtered, like 5 Geordies slaughtered 10-0 or something like that. And it was like, it was a big wake-up call. I think when you go over there, you've got to be really, really motivated and ready to play against bigger, stronger, athletic players who you may be more technical than, but they're hard workers, and you know, it's a good standard, and you're playing against boys from all over the world who are obviously committed to playing football, because you don't just give up 3 or 4 years of your life if you don't want to try and progress and get better.
Yeah, definitely. So looking at back at your freshman year, you know, it was a decent season. I think you played 17 matches. Started the most of those games. So how do you look back as that first year as a whole? Is it a season of learning and adjusting to the way? Would you say the style was different to what you used to? Did you have to adapt parts of your game to suit that?
Yeah, I think when I got over, I wasn't big enough. I wasn't strong enough. Like I think I was clever enough to play there, but I just wasn't physical enough. The way that we wanted to play amongst Seaton, we'd all been passing game, and you could get on the back shoulder. I was a striker at the time, and from movement you could create yourself opportunities. And then suddenly I'm playing against 23-year-olds, fast, strong players, and if you're not that experienced on the league and you're not that experienced on how you're going to play, I wasn't one of those players that was really, really technical, taking on players all the time. So I had to get adjusted to it. Like you said, it was good to go over with boys who have played in the team, and that made it a lot easier. And I managed to get some goals, and we did all right. But the first 4 or 5 matches I didn't start in, and I wasn't happy about it at the time. But I knew now, looking back on it, that it was just as well, because I don't think I was ready for going into that kind of system and that kind of style.
Yeah, and with that in mind, do you think one of the things that we've talked about in recent weeks is, do you think the UK is sort of missing a trick in that regard, that guys are expected to make the jump at 18-year-old into men's football, and sometimes whether it's from a physical point of view, like you've pointed out, or a mental point of view, that it's not that they're not good enough, maybe they're just not ready there? And do you think, is that why that it suited you a lot more going down the American route?
Definitely, yeah. I think, like you said, I mean, you obviously have some exceptional talents at 18, and they smash it in the league, and they do amazing. But players who have played in the academies, like we were talking about earlier, West Ham United under-23 captain, and they're good players, but you sometimes come across these players and they don't absolutely smash it straight away. You know, it takes them a little bit of time to get into it, and that's fine. You know, you've got your 4 years. Your first year is going to be a learning curve. If you go out there and you're doing really well straight away, then brilliant. You might decide that it wasn't the best route for you, but I feel like 95% of the players, they need that year to understand the league, and they need to understand that you're not better than everybody. You're coming over to America and everyone's kind of in the same boat, pushing for the same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty humbling experience, really, isn't it? Because you go from being one of the best players in your area to now you're competing with guys, like you said, Brazilians, Chileans, all that stuff from around the world now. So it's a brilliant point. But what I want to ask you specifically on that is, you then took that from your freshman year and sort of went up a level in your sophomore year. I think you won the SAC Player of the Year, and amongst other, NSCAA All-American third team, I think you made that year as well. So a massive, massive jump there from your freshman year. What do you think were the main differences in how you took you get into that sort of next level?
Like I said before, I had that first year to kind of scout it out, sort of thing. I started to understand what I needed to do to get the best out of myself there. And I remember getting home, and I don't think I was fit enough for the American game. I was fit enough for the English game, but I wasn't fit enough for the American game. I say for the English game, at that level I was fit enough, not professional level, but I wasn't fit enough for the American game. So I went home, really tried to improve on that. And playing that year, I had a Brazilian striker next to me. Played that first year, and he was coming towards the end of his time there. He was a junior, really pushing on, and he was the kind of main man. And then his senior year, he kind of took me under his wing, and me, him, and the coach had a few chats. And that season, we just worked really well, and it was one of those. It fell into place really well for me, and I suddenly got confidence, and I realised that I was good, and they made me a captain, and suddenly I felt like I was not in this big pool of players where everyone was bigger and faster and stronger. I had to try and take that burden on my shoulders. Mm-hmm. And I remember he got an injury at the time, and the coach kind of said, right, well, now is your time to step up. And just one of those things. It clicked for me, and I was getting a lot more of the ball. People trusted me more, and the goals came, and it was a really good season for me.
Yeah, and just on that, these seasons are so intense and they're so compact, so it's really important to sort of hit the ground running in a sense. So what do you think from your experience playing at a decent, very decent college level, what makes a successful team?
I think you've got to have a mix of, I don't think necessarily all a full foreign team is necessarily the best way to go. I think you've got to have a mix of those American players who are really, really strong, athletic. Fullbacks for me, the American fullbacks are brilliant. They're just fitness-wise, they're mad, they're not shy of a tackle, and they're up and down, and they're just what you need. I think the facilities-wise, it obviously helps going over to a place that has good facilities. We were looked after extremely well at Wingate and East Tennessee. So I was really lucky. But I mean, we'd go to some colleges and it would be tough. Like it looked tough for them. I think getting your foreign signings right as well is massive for a coach as well. You can't rely on incoming freshmen to absolutely smash it. So building your team around, I think when I was there, it was kind of like it was almost like a 4-year project that they were hoping to win the national championship, and they ended up doing that in the 4 years. So building that team, getting the right chemistry, getting the right foreign players, and having those core American players as well, I think is massive.
Yeah, obviously we're focusing massively on the football side, but in your first couple of years in America, how was the transition for you in terms of you're going into a new culture, completely different country, and how did you sort of settle in that regard and find the lifestyle and everything involved?
Well, with us going over with 4 boys from Newcastle and the previous 4, it was a very, very easy transition. Are you still there? Yeah. Very easy transition. Basically, I was living with 4 the 4 boys I went over with, so we were all kind of in the same boat. I had friends who'd gone over by themselves to colleges, and I think if I could choose to do it again, I might have done that route. I think when you go over, you kind of shelter yourself if you're going over with a large group of people. We were the English boys sort of thing in North Carolina, in Wingate. So we all stuck together. It was easy. It was almost like you were with 8 of your best mates on holiday, but you've got to play football every day. The transition going into school was hard. We'd done the BTEC diplomas at Monk Seton, and it wasn't the hardest of work. It was one of those things that I kind of found quite easy. So suddenly I'm doing French and maths and English in my first year, and it's like that was hard. I wasn't expecting to have to do French and maths again, like what I'd done when I was 15, 16. So that side was hard, but the fact that I was there with 4, 5, 6 boys from Newcastle, it was much, much easier for me than maybe it would be for another person.
Yeah, definitely. And eventually, you go on to leave Wingate and to transfer to ETSU. What brought around that decision? Because obviously, like you say, Wingate's they're into this 4-year vision, if you like, and things are going really well, and you're building year upon year. So, what was it personally that you wanted to transfer?
I'd looked, when I was a sophomore and I had that good season with being the All-American. I'd spoken to a couple of people. One of my good friends, Tom Devitt, who was playing at the time in the 2nd division, he just transferred over to Longwood University, Division 1. And I thought about it in my sophomore year. I'd maybe had an opportunity if I'd really pushed for it, but after having such a good year and being a captain and stuff, it was one of those things that I felt maybe I should keep going. We've got a chance next year of maybe winning that national tournament. After 3 years, we'd won the league 2 times, won the cup 2 times. We'd not quite made it through to the national tournament. And a few things just went wrong. Going my junior year, at the finish of my junior year, the spring wasn't amazing. There'd been a few problems, off the pitch. There was a lot of things going on, and it was one of those things. I just needed a new challenge, and I wanted to really push when I was going to be a senior. And I think when you go over and you can kind of sense when a coach is really pushing certain players, that he maybe wants to be a professional, or he really wants to push in that one direction. Some players were going off to play for a week in professional teams for trials and stuff like that when they were juniors. And I didn't feel like I was getting that opportunity, even though I'd had a good season. I'd put a lot of effort in, and I'd done well, and I ended up being the conference player of the year. So it was one of those that I just wanted to get a fresh start, have a season in that Division 1, see what it was kind of like standard wise, try and play against some of the best colleges in the country, and have a go doing it that way, and see what I can make of it after that.
Definitely. So obviously you make the transition across to ETSU, and how is, there's a lot of speculation around the differences between the levels in America, Division 1, Division 2. Was there any notable differences for you going to that level or stepping up?
Not really compared to Wingate. I think this overall standard of the league was much better. When we were playing at Wingate, we were beating teams sometimes at the bottom of the league 8-9-0, like 5-6, whatever. We were smashing teams, and there was maybe 2 or 3 of the teams that were close to us that would give us a good game, but those lower teams we would absolutely hammer. So that was the difference. I went into the SOCON, which is a really physical, tough league, not really any team standing out necessarily. So it became a battle. On that aspect, it was the lower ends of the squad were better. There's better American players. I think it's huge to have the lower end of the squad. Just makes training a lot better. So it was going into that, training was better, but maybe not necessarily the 11 that I played with at Wingate. I think it would be a really good game against the 11 at ETSU. Maybe even Wingate would have beaten them. So it was one of those. I don't necessarily think the standard was that much different, but the overall training and, the teams that we got to play were just so much better than what I'd played against in Division 2.
Yeah, and you talked about how your senior year, and I think every college player can relate that's gone through the process. That's the year that you say, right, I want to make my mark in this year. So just in terms of mentality, what's different between, the years as you develop? So as you go through, start off as a freshman and sophomore, then you go into your late years as a junior and a senior. What sort of changes do you think mentally?
I think when you're a freshman, you're not really sure what's coming. You're just excited to get out there and give it a go, sort of thing. Then you're getting your sophomore year, you've had that experience, and I think not many people really expect much from your freshman year, but then you start getting a little bit of expectation from your sophomore year, which extends to your junior year. Your junior year for me, it's a hard one, because for me, I ended up transferring, so it was good to have a good junior year, but I feel like a lot of people feel like, well, I can't really do anything in my junior year. I've got next year, I've still got one more year. So it can kind of get into that mentality where, well, if it doesn't quite work, then I've always got next year, which is wrong. You want to have, at the end of the day, they're going to look back at your all your years to see how you've done. So then you get to that senior year, and it's like all everything's on the go. You're wanting to speak to different coaches. You're wanting to get attention from professional teams. So suddenly it's like, oh, this is it, and it comes by so quickly. I remember that last game, you don't really quite believe it, that you finished that 4 years, and it's kind of surreal. You've been through that whole process, and then suddenly it's down to, we were in the national tournament, and it's suddenly down to one game, and then that's it. Do you know what I mean? So it's you're playing for an extra game now, and it's like playing in a cup. So it's brilliant.
Do you think that year at ETSU, do you think you learned anything specifically from being in a different environment, or was it more, like we just said, from that sort of mentality change, getting a bit older and realising, right, this is my last chance to make a real good go of it?
I think for me, it was going over there. I was coming in as a senior, so it was a lot easier going in. I was really lucky to go into a team that were very welcoming. There was no kind of outspoken leaders who were worried about positions or worried about a new transfer coming in. Everyone was really, really welcoming. And I went in with the mentality that I wanted to try and win the league again with a team that had struggled the year before. So it was I would say it was a learning curve outside of outside of football because I was in suddenly a bigger school. There was 20,000, I think it was. I got to experience that side of thing. But on the football pitch, it was more just being able to... Oh, sorry, my headphones just died. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you, mate, yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine, mate. Yeah. Technical difficulties.
Yeah. Going in, like I said, it was a learning curve, and the fact that I actually went and played a different position. I went and turned into a defensive midfielder. I got injured in the first game, my first collegiate game for ETSU. I tore my meniscus, so it was kind of like, I was playing against a team called High Point, and I was really close to signing with them. And then we went there, my first game. I'd just been winning all the time with Wingate, and we got smashed 5-1, and I tore my meniscus. And I thought, like, what have I done here? This is a nightmare. Ended up not getting surgery. Only missed one game. Not sure how at the time. Not sure how looking back at it now either. But wasn't sharp enough to be a striker at the time. Just wanted to be on the pitch, so they put me in defensive midfield. And luckily enough for me, it was a good change because I ended up made a career so far out of playing defensive midfield. So, like I said, everything happens for a reason. So it was learning. It was a big learning thing for me, in the fact that I had to learn a new position and I had to learn a different environment. I was playing with different players. I wasn't in my own comfortable bubble anymore with my boys from England around me. I had to go and talk to people. It was a completely different experience, and one I was really, really happy I did.
Yeah, and just on that, Charlie, so looking back now, for lads maybe that are looking to go over into the freshman year, or if you can give any bit of advice to yourself going over there as a freshman, what do you think lads can do to be as successful as possible right from day one?
I think you've got to be ready in terms of your body going over there. It's at 18. I mean, it's possible to do it. We weren't ready. We thought we were having fun, and when we were 18, we finished football, and it was like, oh, we've got three months before we go to America. Let's make the most of it, sort of thing. We were all going on holiday and stuff like that, and I wish at the time I'd really focused on it, because I feel like I probably could have had my sophomore year as a freshman, in terms of being more ready. I wouldn't have been 100% ready, but I would have been a lot more ready. So I think we also didn't really...
Just on that as well, I think it's not only that period, that 3 months when you get out there. I think things like the spring are really important as well. Would you agree? Like, I think when you get older, you sort of welcome and you cherish the spring season more often, because it's a chance to develop. And like you talk about, if it's physically, mentally, you get that chance where it's a little less pressure. You've not got to perform week in, week out, and you can take that time to develop. Would you agree?
Definitely, yeah. And like you said, there's a lot more leeway for getting your body ready, trying different things. You get to challenge yourself against better schools. We would go and play all the best Division 1 schools at the time, and that was something that we really, really relished. We were playing professional teams as well, some USL teams, and luckily for us, we had a good spring schedule. I know some people go over there and they're not happy because they maybe don't get the games they want to get, and sometimes the coach is playing all the players that he hasn't necessarily played. But if you're in a good setup, like we were, the coach took that opportunity to be like, right now, this is the time to kind of enjoy yourself, but keep playing, get your bodies right, but we still want to win. So it was a good time for us.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the questions I want to ask you, and I think it's different each person you ask. But obviously, since you've gone on to play professionally in the different environments and what have you, but was there one moment in, whether it's your senior year or before that, where you thought, right, I'm good enough here to make this jump now? Or is it, just over time, you built yourself up to that level where you think, if I keep working at this level, I will make it? Or was there one specific moment? What do you think?
When I transferred over to ETSU, I wasn't really sure, because I thought this is going to determine whether, because I didn't really know that much about the difference in standard and the depth of squad and that kind of thing. And I thought, if I can do it here, then maybe I can make that jump. When I got there and I got into training and I started being relied on as one of the better players in the team, I thought, right now, maybe this is an opportunity for me. I think when you do play and you're not playing in one of the top teams and you're not in that maybe top 10 team or whatever, you're looking, thinking, could I do that? And you're not really sure. But when I got that opportunity to play in those games, I thought to myself, maybe I can do this. I wasn't really sure where or when it would happen, but it was one of those things that I thought I could do it after that season. I would say it would probably be my senior year. You know, when you get given awards in America, they're not necessarily because you're the best player on the team. You know, I got the South Atlantic Conference Player of the Year, but I wasn't the best on my team that year. I scored the goals, but our captain Rossi and our centre back Alex Nelson at the time, they were unbelievable for us, but they only scored 4 goals and got 5 assists or something like that. And so.
And just one thing I want to ask you about that. So, like you just mentioned, that you played with a lot of lads that fantastic footballers and have probably gone on to good things. I know some of them have gone on to play professionally as well. What is it about those players like yourself and others that sort of something clicks and they are able to make that jump? What is it that they do that others don't, do you think?
I mean, for us, we were lucky in the fact that after training, you know, we were so competitive that we wanted to do extra every day. A lot of teams even a lot of players that we played with, you know, some of the Brazilians, they were brilliant, unbelievable. But the minute training finished, they were off. Do you know what I mean? They were off to get their dinner, and that was it. We always used to stay out, and football was everything. You know, we were going over there. Some players go over there for studies, and that's perfectly fine. You know, it's a chance to keep playing, but you're there to do your studies. We were just there for football, and we wanted to make sure that if we're from the environment we'd come from in Newcastle, it was like we're going to keep that up, and we were all constantly on each other. There were some players that, you know, they're better footballers than what I am, and they ended up stopping playing because they just, I don't know if it's work ethic or if it's just, I don't know what the word is, but they kind of gave up a little bit and they let themselves down, I would say.
Yeah, maybe that drive wasn't quite there. And this is what I want to ask you. So the point where, you know, you realise, you know, maybe this is going to sort of be a reality in terms of playing professionally. What sort of options did you have after college, after coming off that season with the ETSU?
I went to the 2 or 3 teams in the USL. I went down to Charleston, Battery, and I'd played as a defensive midfielder, but they needed a striker at the time. And I ended up going down and went there for a week and a half, 2 weeks, played in 3 games, and I scored a hat-trick in one of the games as a striker. And I thought, right, well, if you don't get signed after you score a hat-trick or you don't get an opportunity, then there's something clearly wrong here. And I remember where there was a list and they had about 50 or 40 trialists there from day one, and it was down to about 8 or 9 or something, and they were taking maybe 4 into pre-season with them, and I wasn't on that list straight after that game. And I thought to myself, like, what can I do now? I was like, it's obviously just not meant to be. So then I'd been invited over to a combine that my coach had helped me sort out at the time. And I went over and played in that, which was over in New York. And it was basically with Danish, Swedish, and I think Norwegian coaches that were all there, Scandinavians, looking for. It come from, there's a Danish club, I think FC Nordsjælland, I think they're called, and they have an American owner, and they were trying to bring over a lot of young players from America to come and play in Denmark in the lower leagues. And I was there and I met the coach, and I played in a couple of games and got that opportunity from that. And it was kind of don't look back after that. After that experience in the USL and not being offered a chance to play with that team after doing what I'd done, I thought maybe it's a chance to get myself over to a different country and see what the possibilities would be there.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things from that is not getting discouraged, right? And it's a lot easier said than done. Like you say, there's a lot of good players that don't necessarily go into the professional game, but because there's so many obstacles in the way. So one thing I have noticed about you seem to make it happen at all. You know, whether it could be in the North Pole for all UK. You know, you seem to want to just play football. Do you think that you've just got to keep to your morals and what your standards and sort of just pursue it at all costs?
Yeah, I think obviously there has to be a point where if it's not financially for you, or if it just doesn't work, and there's definitely a point where you get to maybe an age where you think, right, well, maybe I have to explore a different avenue. But when you're coming out of American college, I think you've got to give it a go wherever it is, get that experience, because you just don't know what it's going to lead to. And I mean, me going over to Denmark, I'd never ever played at a standard like it. It was the second tier of Danish football, and I thought going over there, they're not going to be that good. And they were unbelievable. And
you would have thought that you learned from college, mate. You said that the same about when you went over to college, didn't you? But yeah, no, it's interesting.
Exactly.
Do you think college prepared you for that jump though? Obviously, it's not. There's obviously levels to the game, right? And at the professional level, whether you're second division in Denmark or wherever you're playing, there is going to be a little bit of a jump. But do you think everything that you learned from college allowed you to make that jump a little bit easier, if that makes sense?
I think you do get sheltered quite a bit in Denmark. In US, in college. Not everything's on the line. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. The leagues are really, really, they're good, they're strong. Everyone wants to win the league, but if you don't, it's like, oh well, this next year. And if the coach's job isn't on the line, the physio's job isn't on the line, like each player aren't fighting for that contract. So I wasn't mentally ready for training. Like training was quite easy for me, I thought, in America. When I went over to Tennessee, I would put myself in maybe the top 5 in the squad at the time. And I went over there and I was in probably the bottom 5, going over into that team. And it was physically, I was ready for the size that I was, but fitness-wise, I wasn't ready because I'd had that long spring off and maybe giving myself too much of a break. But I think there were certain things that, training every day, the gym work, being looked after, nutrition-wise towards the end of it, everything was starting to prepare me to be a professional. But that standard jump, I wasn't ready for.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, so you've sort of gone around the world with your football now. So you played, you went to Denmark and then over to the Faroe Islands and then Cambodia and now in Singapore. So where are you at with your football now? What's on the horizon for you personally, and what do you still want to achieve out of football? What's your aspirations?
So I'm currently playing in Singapore Premier League. There's been a few good players, played over here. Jermaine Pennant was playing over here a year and a half, 2 years ago. Obviously towards the back end of his career, but I think this was a good step for me at the moment. I'm playing in the AFC, which is the Europa League of Asian football. So if you do well in that, you're coming up against huge teams. And if you can get into that AFC or ACL, which is the Champions League, then you're playing against Chinese teams, Hulk, Oscar. It's amazing how close you can get to those players, and still being able to travel different parts of Asia in this tournament. We've been over to Myanmar, we're going to Vietnam, and playing against some of the best players in Asia. It's a great experience, different, but for me now it's about pushing on and trying to get as high as I can, kind of over in Asia. It's a ladder over here. It's hard, there's only 3 or 4 foreigners per team, and there's so many players that are fighting for those positions. There's agents that get involved that maybe put players in that don't necessarily deserve to be there. Over here, it's hard. Every match you're being looked at, and you can kind of be chopped at any point. It's a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
A lot of players have come over and they're 3 matches in and they've only scored 1 goal as a striker, and suddenly they're not good enough, and it's madness. So it's keeping me on my toes. It motivates me all the time to try and keep stepping up the ladder. And I think financially wise, it's better than playing for me in a League 2 or League 1 team. And you can live in good conditions and live in the sun, sort of, and experience that kind of side of life.
And just with that, how important do you think it is for players? And this is one of the major benefits, obviously, of the US college soccer route, is the fact that you get your degree with that as well. So how important do you think it is to have other focuses outside of football as well? Not planning for the worst in a sense, but, you know, just having that bit of security behind you.
Oh, massively, yeah. I'm so happy I did it, you know, learning, like I said, it was a nightmare going and doing French at the start, but I played with French players, and, you know, it sounds ridiculous, but I could have a little conversation with them. And then I went and did my business and my sports management degree, and you get so much time off the pitch, especially when you're playing abroad. Even in America, you get a lot of time to yourself. So to be able to have something that you've learned that you can kind of take in and plan for after football or during football, I think is so important. Being able to make connections and be able to say to people, well, I've got this as well that I can maybe help you with, or you go into a club and, you know, a lot of clubs will still look at it. They see that players are switched on. People might want to work with you because they know that you may have a degree in something. So I think it's vitally important, you know, especially for when you finish. We're not playing at the Premier League. We're not earning £100,000 a week. So when you finish football, you could be 30, 33, 34, whatever you finish. And then what do? Do you stay in football and do your coaching badges? Yeah, but maybe you want to try something different. You might be sick of football. So I'm so happy I did it, and I'm looking forward to doing something with it when I finish.
What did you actually come out with in the end then? What was your degree in?
I was sports management.
Sports management, okay.
Yeah.
And obviously from that, you know, you've got your YouTube channel now, going and little bits and bobs like that. So what's your purpose for that, those sort of things?
Basically, like I said before, I'd had a few messages on different social medias about maybe players wanting to come over to Scandinavia, or players asking how is it possible that you've gone from maybe USA to Asia in a short period of time, and how do I do it, sort of thing. And I was kind of doing a little bit of research, and there's not really many players out here who are kind of given an insight into what it's like to play abroad. And, you know, when I was coming out of college, one of the first things I was looking on YouTube. I was looking on people, trying to look for websites. I wanted to know what it was like. How do I get out to a country? What am I going to expect? I wish I had the information I had now when I was leaving college, you know. And so it's more of to give people an insight and a little bit of a heads up, and also to help as many people as possible, really. I just want to, if I can help a player who was in my position, I didn't really have that much help going out, you know, I had to kind of do it by myself. So if I can help a player who's done well and who's kind of fallen under the radar, and help them get maybe a move into Scandinavia or whatever, then that would be amazing for me.
No, and I wish it was around when I was going through the college system as well, because you're right, there's a massive gap there. I don't think you know, enough people have documented, you know, how people can make a success after college as well. But, you know, I've watched your content and some fantastic insight in there. So where can people find that?
So on YouTube, if you just type in Charlie Machell, or Life as a Professional Abroad, on any of the YouTube, or if you go over to my Instagram, there's a bio underneath with the link, or Twitter or Facebook. It's all on there. So that's where you'd find all the videos on there.
Brilliant. We'll tag it, obviously, your socials in this afterwards. So just wrapping up, Charlie, you know, it's been fantastic to listen to how you sort of developed over the you know, your time in America, and, you know, obviously having great success over in Asia now. So just finishing up here on a bit of advice for people, whether it's a case of, you know, they're looking to go down the college soccer route, or, you know, they're looking to turn professional after college. What sort of advice do you have for those guys?
For people going into college, or?
Well, let's start with people going into college, and then we'll talk about people in college, you know, looking to make something afterwards as well.
So if you go in and get that opportunity into college, a lot of people, from my experience, have had that opportunity and not taken it. And to this day, it's their biggest regret. Like players who have maybe taken 1 year pros, and then suddenly you can't get that opportunity again. You may not be able to get into the NCAA. Players who have been offered the opportunity and they think maybe it's not for me. I don't really want to leave home. I think if you get that opportunity, no matter where it is, take it. Worst comes to worst, you go over there for a year and you might not like it and you might want to come home, but you've at least given yourself that opportunity to experience something. I think you become a man when you go over there. You've got to suddenly look after yourself. You're not at home, you're pushing the boat out. You also get to play football like a professional and also get a degree at the same time. So anyone who's got that opportunity, for me, is an absolute no-brainer. And then getting that opportunity to play after, I think take your first opportunity that you get, no matter where it is, take it, because all you can do is be the best in that team or in that country. And not many people get the opportunity to play professional football and get a salary for it. Whether you go and take a small salary to start, which might happen, you've got to go out and prove yourself, and it's a ladder and it'll happen. It's one of those processes that we all look on the TV and we see Marcus Rashford and player Mason Greenwood, stepping into the professional game and it clicking for them. Well, 99% of us aren't going to do that. So you've got to come to the realization that, you might go to the Faroe Islands or you might go to, Latvia or somewhere like that, but you're playing as a professional and you'll be very, very surprised at how good the standard is, and you'll become a better player for it. So that would be my advice, take whatever opportunity you get and make it a process, build yourself to wherever you want to be, and it's one of those things that I've done and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely. And one last question I want to ask, because I think it is really it's interesting for me to find out. Do you think you'd be where you are today without going through the process, in America and stuff like that, or do you think you might have ended up going down the professional route a different way? What do you think your life would be like today if you hadn't gone to America? I know it's an impossible question to answer.
Well, to be fair, I don't think I would have become a professional if I'd not gone to America. And that's just me being honest. I was 18 and I wasn't good enough to play a professional club at the time. And I don't think without the constant, I maybe could have went and played at a lower league and played part-time. And I was lucky enough, like I said, to go to America, train every day, play with better players, improve my game, and like I said, become a man. And so if I'd not gone over, I don't think I would be where I am today. I probably wouldn't have gone and got a degree either. I would have wanted to. I said I applied for universities and I got the opportunity to go to a university, but I just can't see I couldn't have seen myself staying there for a long time if I hadn't had the football on the side. So, school's hard sometimes, but the football motivates you at the same time. You've got to do well in school if you want to play on the pitch. So it's one of those things that comes hand in hand and gets you a degree at the end of it. And obviously it's helped me get to where I am.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Charlie, I can't thank you enough, mate, for giving up your time to do this today. Hopefully,
Thank you for having me, mate. I appreciate it.
No, like I said, I wish there was this sort of stuff around when I was ready to go through the route. And like we say, he's another great example, Charlie. And went to Division 2, not straight to Division 1. He's gone a different route in terms of he didn't go straight back into English football or anything like that. He's gone outside his comfort zone in many respects and tried out, and luckily it's paying off for him right now. So, Charlie, it's been brilliant, and thank you very much, mate.
Appreciate it, mate. Thank you.